Today's topic is going to be on the subject of grades. And for me, I think I don't have much to say about this subject, but the things that I do have to say about them are very important because I think during our school career, we don't really question grades. They're always just there and you're just kind of told to accept them. Like you can't question them because this is just the way things work and it's always been like this. Why should we even change it? Why should we question it? So here I am, and I'll be talking about my thoughts and opinions on grades. So, first, I'll be talking about the impact it has on learning because, school is for learning, right? And also the purpose of grades. And next, I'll be talking about the effects on students because students are the ones who are getting these grades. So it's important to just talk about what are the effects that grades have on students. All right. So first, this is the one thing that I discovered. It's like the biggest discovery I've had on the impact that grades have on learning. So first of all, it completely destroys any intrinsic motivation and natural curiosity that you have intrinsically about learning. For example, now I feel like none of my courses are very interesting, and a lot of other people think that they're either okay with their courses or they're not very interested in it. And one of the reasons is because of grades, because if you receive a grade, then it's no longer about you learning the thing, it's about what grade you get. So, in this way, I think it just really destroys people's natural wanting to learn. Like, for example, think about this you want to learn, but then at the end, after all your hard work and you trying to learn something new, you just get this grade that is out of, at least for my school where I live, it's out of 100. So it just kind of destroys the curiosity of learning because I'll talk about this later, but grades then become the end goal. So why should I learn anything else? Why should I learn? Why should I even want to learn anything else that's not strictly necessary for me to get the grade that I want? So I think this is the most destructive thing that grades do is it destroys everyone's intrinsic motivation. Now everyone hates, for example, I think math is a good example. Like a lot of people hate math. And I think one of the reasons why is because of grades, because they're trying really hard to understand something and then all they get back is just a bad grade. I don't know if this makes sense to you, but I think getting a grade just destroys the part of me that wants to learn more about things that are related to the subject that I got the grade for. And next, I want to say that grades don't actually measure learning. They don't actually work. Because as for me, I've been to two different schools so far for high school, and that's kind of when grades actually matter. And then I can truly see that grades don't work because if the system is to be fair, everyone should be judged equally for a certain standard. But this just doesn't happen because at least where I live, we don't have standardized tests, and that means that everyone just kind of learns things that the teacher thinks they should learn. For example, when I took physics class, I had to learn how a refrigerator worked. And then my friend who took the same course but had a different teacher, she didn't have to learn that. But the result was also in a grade. But it's for the same course, but we still learn different things. And another thing I want to talk about is teachers make a huge difference as well, because the teachers, at least for me, are the ones making the tests. Each teacher is different in marking how much things should count, like if you get a mistake or if you do something right, how much it should be counted. And now this is even crazier, but for different schools, we just have completely, like, even though we're learning like about the same subjects, there's a lot of nuance that is changed up. Like, for example, I took functions grade 11 in one school, and we didn't learn any trig identities. I think we learned one, but yeah. And then when I went to this new school that I'm in right now, my friends and people who are taking the same exact course that we will all have the same mark for, they're learning trig identities while I didn't. So that means grades don't actually work. Because what does that mean if they got a higher grade than me? Does that mean like, if say they got a lower mark than me, but I didn't learn trig identities? So then when a university sees that, they're not going to know that I didn't learn trig identities, but they did, but my friends did. So it just doesn't really work to measure people's learning because it varies a lot in different schools, as well as if you have different teachers. This is even more apparent for English because if you give the same essay to different teachers, there's no way they're going to both give the same number out of 100. So yeah, grading doesn't even work. So I don't even know why they chose it to be like this. Okay, now the effects. And there's a lot of negative effects, I think, about grades. So first of all, grades encourage competition. Okay, so at least for me, in my school, when you get a report card, it shows you the average mark of the class, and also as well as your mark. There you go. So now it's forcing you to compare yourself to other people in your class. And then I know in some other places, they would also show people the highest mark in that class and the lowest mark of the class. More opportunities for you to compare yourself to other people in your class. And this is just really unfortunate because I think learning shouldn't be about comparing yourself to other people, because I think everyone should be able to, at the end, learn the material that they have to be able to learn. And then if you just see someone getting a mark higher than you or lower than you, it will give you a feeling that's not great. Like if you see someone getting like a higher grade than you, then you're not going to feel great about it. But actually, similarly, if I see someone get a lower grade than me, I also don't feel great about it because then you're like, oh, I'm better than them, which is kind of like not a great feeling to have. But I really think that for learning, collaboration is something that should be encouraged instead of competition. Like we should be trying to help each other learn, instead of just trying to make sure someone else doesn't learn so that you can get a higher mark. Okay, and number two, I think in some part you cannot escape this, but grades become your self worth because you are the one who took the test or the exam. So then when you receive the mark, isn't that a reflection of yourself? Even though it really isn't, because someone else is giving you grades based on their criteria and not your own, but then it becomes your self worth. So you are basically worth the mark that you get. That's the feeling I get kind of when I see my grade on the report card. Like, oh, this number is telling me what I'm worth in this subject. And I think that's detrimental to learning because we shouldn't be tying our self worth to grades, okay? Because our self worth is like, it's not even about grades. It's like being a good person and just those kind of things, not really about how much you know in a subject. So I think it's not great that we have grades because it's so easy to tie them to your self worth. And next, I think grades just become the end goal. So no one even cares about actually learning things. Or even if they do, the reason why they care about that is because they want a good grade. It's not because they actually care about learning the thing. And this is, I think we can all agree that in school, the purpose is to learn and not to get a good grade because those things are different because grades don't work. So it's just really sad that now grades have become the end goal because now everyone just wants. Okay, I just realized I forgot to mention something. I'll mention it now. But when I was saying how grades don't actually work, I want to say that, for example, if everyone in a class does a test, not everyone's going to get every question right, right? So then, if you help, because I think as a teacher, you should be trying to help your students. So then, if you talk to everyone and then help every person understand why they got something wrong, and then if they can now do it again and get it right, then shouldn't they get full marks? Because now they understand how to do it. And what's also unfortunate about grades is that they don't care about long term memory and they also don't care whether you learn, whether you can do it after the test. Like, for example, if you took a test and then you don't know how to do that question, right? And then you just don't know how to do it. But then later in the day, you realize how to do it or someone teaches you how to do it. Well, your grade doesn't care about that because they only care what you know during that amount of time. That just doesn't make sense to me because I think as long as you know it, shouldn't you get all the marks for it? Because now you know how to do it. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, why does it have to be that amount of time? Like, why do you have to solve all those in 1 hour? And if you can't solve it, why are you punished for it by having a bad grade? Like, the teacher should be able to help you understand, and then everyone, in the ideal world, I guess, everyone would just get 100. But I guess that's not good because the purpose of grades really is to compare people. And you can't compare everyone if everyone gets 100 because everyone understands, even though that's what I think we should all be aiming for. We should all be aiming for every single person in the class understanding all the things they need to understand. Okay, anyways, back to the effects. Lastly, I think grades give students a kind of a negative perception of learning because to me, personally, I think learning, like, as long as you're improving, that's really good because everyone's different and you shouldn't be comparing yourself to others. But as long as you're improving in the best way that you can, that should be enough. And then they should feel proud of themselves, right? But then the message of grade is like kind of static. Like you get this grade, but I know that everyone can improve, like they can learn stuff. But then when you get a grade, that kind of implies that you can't improve. Because if you get like, for example, you get a 70 and you're like, oh, so does that mean I'll never know how to do anything? So I think grades give a negative message because it kind of just tells you, like, oh, this is the amount of knowledge that you're ever gonna know. And it's just kind of sad because I think for learning, as long as you're improving, that should really be enough. And then students should know that as long as they're improving, that's enough. So, yeah, I don't think grades are good, as you can tell. Um, I hope you learned something from this video, felt validated. Thank you for watching.